here. Buzz, how do you think this is going to play out?
So I think in a lot of ways this Esper Mentor deck is just your classic mid-range deck. It's not as controlling as the Miracles deck. It's just kind of in the middle. So it's got a lot of card advantage, a lot of board control elements, and it's going to be looking to grind its opponent out and win in a long game. The Burn player is just, as you would expect, clearly on the aggro plan, is going to be looking not to interact very much, and it's probably going to be able to dodge a lot of the board control elements that the Esper deck is looking to establish, and the Burn is going to be able to bypass that and go directly to Mario's face. So I think, generally speaking, in game one at least, Mario isn't going to be really well equipped to deal with what Brenden is doing. But post-board Mario will be able to pick up a lot of the tools. That said, there's a couple unique things about Brenden's list. He has a Sensei's Divining Top in his deck, which is a little unusual, and he doesn't have any of the Monastery Swift Spears, which is a little interesting. So he's a little lighter on creatures than I think most of the Burn decks that we see in Legacy, and he's going to be looking to be a little bit more Burn heavy.
So we've got, the game is going to start out here blazingly fast. Mario's going to ponder and keep it on top. Pass it back to Brenden, who's going to suspend a Rift Bolt. Mario just has a land and a pass, and Brenden's Rift Bolt is going to go to Mario's face, knocking him down to 17. He's going to then deploy a Eidolon of the Great Revel and pass back to Mario. He's going to fetch with his Polluted Delta down to 16, get a Tundra, and I imagine we might see something like Monastery Mentor here on his next turn.
Yeah, this is going to be a little bit of a race. Mario, despite having a lot of card advantage and some good control elements, he is not going to be able to completely control Brenden. So what Mario wants to do is just to have enough disruption to buy him some time and then take the game over with a card like Monastery Mentor. So getting this on turn 3 is really what Mario needs to do, because this is a race. This is not purely a aggro versus control deck. This is just a race where one player is better situated at racing than the other.
So Mario is going to fall down to 14 with that Swords to Plowshares on the Eidolon of the Great Revel, taking Brenden up to 21. He will deploy a Monastery Mentor for his turn. Brenden does have a Lava Spike, which will bring Mario down to 11. But here's the point where Mario is going to untap with Monastery Mentor. He's going to be able to make some monks here with the amount of burn that's available to Brenden McCarley. Mario has to end this game very quickly.
Yeah, a lot of what is in Mario's deck is for playing a longer game, and Brenden is looking to get this game over with real fast. Brenden's also kind of getting paid off for not having a lot of creatures. Mario has this Snapcaster Mage with nothing but a Swords to Plowshare in his library to, that would be the ideal target. And Mario has another Plow in hand, but Brenden just doesn't have as many creatures as most Burn decks, and even less creatures than most normal aggro decks.
So Mario is going to go ahead and use a Snapcaster Mage, flashing back a Ponder. This is going to give him a Prowess trigger on that Monastery Mentor and create a Jacob Wilson 1/1 Monk token. He's going to keep his Ponder and draw another copy of Swords to Plowshares. I wonder if we might end up seeing Mario using Swords on his own creatures to gain life to counter some burn spells out of Brenden.
I think that is probably going to be one of the better uses of those Swords to Plowshares, especially because the Monastery Ment tokens with some Prowess triggers can actually get pretty big. So those plows could be close to 4 life each.
So Brenden's going to fall down to 17 and fetch his Arid Mesa into a mountain on Mario's end step and cast Price of Progress. So this is going to do 4 damage to Mario if he allows it to resolve.
Which is a pretty good burn spell. Not too shabby.
So it looks like he's going to use his Swords to Plowshares and cash it in on his Monastery Mentor. Now this is going to generate another monk and gain Mario 4 life because of the Prowess trigger that's going to effectively counter the Price of Progress out of Brenden. But Brenden has a handful of cards that presumably all do a bunch of damage. We're going to see a Sensei's Divining Top here, so that card you had mentioned earlier.
Yeah, this is a one-of in Brenden's deck that's pretty interesting. Not something that you would usually think of as being in the Burn deck. A pretty interesting choice on Brenden's part. Normally you just want to draw what you need right away with these fast streamlined decks rather than spend your mana looking for it, but it'll be interesting to see how effective this top ends up being.
And actually, he could potentially try and kill Mario here, as there was a Fire Blast on top of his deck. He has one in hand and access to more land, so he could cash in his top here, draw a Fire Blast, and then just cast 2 Fire Blasts and try and kill Mario. He does have Force of Will, which is going to help.
Yeah, and it looks like Brenden is respecting the chance of Force of Will, because if Brenden went for that play and Mario had Force of Will, Brenden would be left with no lands and probably drawing dead.
So Mario is going to go ahead and use a Gataxian Probe, see the Fire Blast in Brendan's hand, get a couple Prowess triggers. He's going to attack in for 6 points of damage. It's going to bring Brenden down to 11. But when Brenden topped, I got to take a look there. There was a Fire Blast, there was a Price of Progress, there was a Chain Line, and he just had nothing but gas on the top of his deck. So there's a chance here that he could potentially go for it and just try and end the game now.
Yeah, I think even... Well, there's the Plow and the Swords to Plowshares, so Mario can potentially Force of Will something, getting a Prowess trigger, and then Swords this guy getting a Prowess trigger. So with the life loss from Force of Will, that's going to be able to put Mario up to 9. So if Brenden can deal 9 damage here through a Force of Will, he'll be able to take it. And I think he might be able to.
Well, here's a Price of Progress that's poised to do 4 points of damage. Now, Brenden will also take 2 points himself, since it doesn't look like he's holding priority to sacrifice that Bloodstained Mire, which might actually end up being relevant if he can't kill Mario this turn.
Absolutely.
So Mario is going to go down to 6 to Force of Will that.
And hopefully Mario, keeps in mind that he has some Prowess triggers.
So this Swords to Plowshares is potentially going to gain him 3 life.
Putting him up to 9.
Putting him up at 9. And Brendan's only going to be able to do 8 points of damage here. So Mario is going to be able to survive at 1 and be able to attack back for 5, for 4, 5, 6. If he just finds a spell on top of his deck, oh no, he's gonna lose a monk, so he's still gonna be in a position. Ooh, Mario is just gonna use his Plow now instead of letting that resolve.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen Mario wait with the Plow, but I suppose this is going to be fine for him anyway. But he could have potentially baited Brenden into sacrificing his other 2 lands. But it looks like Brenden is going to be able to wrap things up.
Yeah.
Either way.
I have to feel like going to 1, to
1 is fine.
To 2, he would have been at 2 if he would have not plowed in response to the Fire Blast, and then just save the Plow for the last card that was in Brendan's hand.
Yeah, I agree with that. That said, he gets an extra Prowess trigger if he does it that turn, so maybe that's a reason to do it. I think I would have let the Fire Blast resolve, wait for Brenden to do something, because normally people don't fire off their Fire Blast unless they're really trying to kill you.
That turn.
Yeah, and it would have made sense if Brendan's last card was a Fire Blast. So Mario could have milked a little more value out of it, but he decided not to, wanted to make use of that Prowess trigger right away rather than wait, and Brenden was able to top deck for the win.
Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the sideboards here for our players, Mario Martinez and Brenden McCarley. Brenden was able to take game 1 on the back of a whole bunch of Fire Blasts with his burn deck, and so Brenden has 3 Smash to Smithereens, 2 Vexing Shusher, 3 Pyrostatic Pillar, 3 Exquisite Firecraft, 3 Smash to Smithereens, 2 Vexing Shusher, 2 Ashen Rider, a Sulfuric Vortex, and a Pithing Needle. What do you think he's going to do?
So did Brenden see the Deathrite Shamans game 1?
He did see Deathrite Shamans.
So he could consider bringing in Pithing Needle for that, but I don't think he will. I think he will bring in the Sulfuric Vortex, and I think that he'll bring in the Exquisite Firecrafts. I think that's probably about it.
Now on Mario's side, we have 3 Abrupt Decay, a Flusterstorm, a Dismember, a Cabal Therapy, a Surgical Extraction, a Detention Sphere, and Engineered Explosives, a Vendilion Click, 1 Supreme Verdict, 1 Misdirection, 1 Zealous Persecution, a Containment Priest, and a Notion Thief. What do you think Mario's going to do? So
I think Mario already has enough creature removal in his main deck, so what he's going to be looking to do is bring in more permission and discard to deal with the burn spells. So I think Mario's going to be bringing in the Flusterstorm, the Cabal Therapy. The Vendilion Click can be a nice threat also in these situations, and probably the Misdirection.
So both of these players are still live for the top 8 in our event. They are trying to battle for riches and glory. And for those of you who aren't able to make it out to an open to battle for those riches and glory, you can also battle in the upcoming StarCityGames.com State and Provincial Championships. So April 22nd, or 23rd and 24th, 2 days, 2 separate tournaments, 1 standard, 1 modern. Go.StarCityGames.com/dates to get some information, but there is some sweet swag that you can get at these events. We have these limited edition prints depicting future city and past city, and these are also going to be on the playmats that you get for top 8 in the events. You'll get 1 for standard, 1 for modern, and if you happen to win the whole thing, then you get this limited edition champion playmat along with the medal that's engraved with your state and the date. You get a pin for top 8ing, and you get a qualification to our invitational.
Yeah, getting the qualification for the invitational is pretty sweet because it's a lot harder to qualify for the invitational as compared to previous years. So getting having a local tournament with some big prizes like this is pretty sweet.
There are also some door prizes at these events where you can get custom oversized tokens for each event based on the state that you're playing in. So again, the State and Provincial Championships 2016 for StarCityGames.com. Going to be a great time for everybody. Go out there and battle and represent your state. I believe our players are presenting, so let's go ahead and jump back and see where Mario and Brenden are at. It looks like they're furiously getting into the action already. So we've got a Deathrite Shaman and a Brainstorm ribbon cast for Mario. Brenden does have a Goblin Guide that's starting to work on Mario's life total, but it looks like there's possibly a Searing Blaze in Brendan's hand that might put an end to that Deathrite Shaman's lifespan.
Yeah, Searing Blaze is just such a vicious card. I remember when that card was in Standard, I remember drafting that card. And that card, whenever I see it cast, it's just so brutal.
Yeah. So Brendan's going to fall to 19 using his Arid Mesa. We're going to get another Goblin Guide. This is going to put quite a bit of pressure onto Mario. And a third Goblin Guide for Brenden, and he's going to put them into the red zone. You got some triggers. Let's see what you got on top of your library.
Yeah.
Well, Mario's going to fetch. I think that I would have let the first trigger resolve before I used my fetch land there, but I will digress. I'll leave it up to Mario. He is the Esper Mentor Master at 9-2.
Yeah, this is a pretty absurd draw. I mean, the triple Goblin Guide draw, especially with the Searing Blaze backup.
Yeah.
I mean,
nice Monastery Mentor next turn, buddy.
Yeah.
So we're going to get a Force of Will. It's going to be the reveal.
Brendan's deck is designed to basically kick his opponent's teeth in, and he is wasting no time.
So Mario's going to take all 6.
Ugh.
He's going to go down to 11. He is, however, going to get in a chip shot with that Deathrite Shaman eating the Brainstorm out of his graveyard, which is going to take Brenden.
Yeah, I have to imagine that that's kind of inconsequential, though.
Yeah, like just because I can.
Yeah, exactly.
So Mario is going to use another fetch land, fall down to 10, go find another basic. Is this going to be, does he have Supreme Verdict in his deck? Yeah, he has 1 in his sideboard.
He has 1 in his sideboard.
But he doesn't have double white.
Yeah, it's usually a card that, I would be surprised if Mario has it in his deck, though, because the creatures on his side of the board are more common and more important, generally speaking, than the ones on Brendan's side. And Mario already has the Source of Plowshares and Snapcaster Mages. So
Mario is going to go ahead and fire off a Ponder here. He's going to get a Monk token. But if this is a Searing Blaze and Brendan's hand, it doesn't look like he has a land to go along with it. But Mario's going to keep that Ponder on top, draw a copy of Tassiger the Golden Fang, which does have a real big body. Mario's already real low.
Yeah, and this Monastery Mentor is going to be in an unfortunate situation where it's probably just going to trade with a Goblin Guide.
No, we're going to get land and another Monastery Mentor. So he's going to get an island and an Underground Sea into his hand off those Goblin Guide triggers.
So this is one of the big criticisms of Monastery Mentor, is sometimes you play it early in the game, and when it doesn't have enough time to do its thing, it's actually not that powerful. So essentially what this Monastery Mentor is doing here is Mario paid 3 mana, and he's trading with Brendan's 1-drop. After Brendan's 1-drop already dealt 2 damage, and Mario is essentially, able to get a chump block out of it too to essentially gain 2 life.
So Mario's going to trade with a Goblin Guide with his Monastery Mentor, chop the other with a Jacob Wilson token, take 2 damage, and fall down to 8. And Brenden has a Fistful of Burn. It looks like he brought in Pyrostatic Pillar, though. I can't imagine that card's going to be very good when you're on the draw against this Mentor deck.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it'll be able to work some magic.
Yeah, it is a Eidolon of the Great Rebel that can't be plowed.
Yeah, that is true.
So it looks like we've got a Tasigur is going to get delved here for Mario.
So pretty good body on the board, but Brenden still can just attack anyway, even sacrificing a Goblin Guide so that the other can deal 2 damage or maybe force a chump from the Deathrite Shaman is going to be great for Brenden, and he's still clearly in the driver's seat.
So a Price of Progress is going to bring Mario down to 6. Brenden is still missing a land. He's going to try and idle onto the Great Rebel here, and Mario's going to counter that with a Force of Will, pitching a Flusterstorm, but falling down to 5 life in the meantime. On Brendan's end step, Mario is going to go ahead and use his Deathrite Shaman.
I would have liked to have seen an attack from Brenden, because Mario would have either had to chump block with the Deathrite Shaman or go to 3, which is a pretty big game. And now that this Tasigur is on the board and Mario can potentially deploy more threats, the Goblin Guides are going to start losing their value.
Yeah, I think I would have liked to see an attack last turn as well.
Yeah.
Brenden has a Lightning Bolt in his hand, so Mario is just dead to that bolt if he's on 3.
Yeah. Also, the creatures have haste on them. Haste creatures are not meant for blocking.
I've used the Goblin Guide a fair amount to block, but it's usually against other Goblin Guides.
I would rather die than block with my Goblin Guide.
Greatness at any cost.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to get a Tasigur activation. He's going to get back a Ponder.
Tasigur activation is certainly not one of the powerful things to do in this matchup. A lot of Mario's stuff is set up to be able to generate a lot of value, but all of it costs a lot of mana. And in this matchup, he's not really given enough time to do that.
Well, there is a Searing Blaze with the landfall.
And that's just going to be game.
And Brenden McCarley is going to go ahead and take this match over Mario Martinez 2-0 with Burn. He's going to move on to 10-2, putting himself in a good shot to top 8 this event. Mario Martinez on Esper Mentor is going to fall down to 9-3. Yeah. Still alive for a top 8, but no more losses to give.
Yeah, we clearly saw how, that was a good performance on Brendan's part, but Mario got to do a lot of what he wanted to do those games, and we could pretty clearly see that the Esper Mentor deck, it's kind of a bad matchup. He wasn't really prepared to handle what Brenden was doing. I think with Mario's deck, he's really looking to prey on other Delver decks.